Welcome to Season 8 of the Finding Peace podcast. This season is focused on practical, trauma-informed tools you can use in everyday life. When emotions run high, relationships feel heavy, or your nervous system needs support. Short episodes designed to help you find more peace, joy, and connection, one moment at a time. Please welcome the host of the Finding Peace podcast, best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker, Troy L. Love.
Every coping strategy exists for a reason. Even the ones you hate. Even the ones that embarrass you. Even the ones you promised yourself you'd stop. Especially those. A woman once told me the thing she hated most about herself was how controlling she became when she felt overwhelmed. She leaned back in the chair and started listing examples like someone confessing to a crime. She took a deep breath before word vomiting.
I plan everything. I mean everything. I monitor everyone's moods. I correct small details that don't really matter. Vacations, meals, the exact route we take to get somewhere. If someone else is driving, I'm watching the GPS over their shoulder. If they miss the turn, I feel my chest tighten immediately, and then I shout at them that they missed the turn.
She laughed a little as she said it, but it was the kind of laugh that tries to hide embarrassment.
If the dishes aren't stacked the right way, I notice. If someone's tone changes just a little, I feel it. If plans shift unexpectedly, my whole body tightens. Telling people exactly how to do tasks they already know how to do. Rechecking work that doesn't actually require supervision. Correcting small details that don't affect the outcome. Hovering while others complete tasks. Giving constant helpful suggestions that feel like criticism. Redoing someone else's work because it wasn't done right. Constantly asking if someone is upset or okay. Reading deeply into small tone changes or facial expressions. Trying to manage other people's moods. Pressuring people to talk when they say they're fine. Assuming conflict is about to happen. Feeling responsible for everyone else's emotional state. Making decisions for the group without asking others. Struggling to let others lead or choose. Overriding other people's preferences. Talking people into my preferred outcome. Repeating arguments until others give in. Helping people decide what they should do with their lives. Correcting people's grammar or wording mid-conversation. Interrupting to explain how something should be done better. Fixating on minor mistakes. Offering unsolicited advice frequently and turning conversations into lessons or lectures. Feeling compelled to point out problems others missed. Repeatedly asking for updates. Sending multiple texts to confirm plans. Asking, did you remember? Nor, are you sure? Frequently. Double-checking things others have already confirmed, asking the same question in different ways, seeking constant reassurance that everything is okay, rearranging things people just set down, needing the house or workspace organized a specific way, becoming irritated when others move things, reorganizing shared spaces without asking, speaking for others in conversations, explaining someone else's thoughts or feelings to others, steering conversations away from topics I dislike, interrupting people to redirect discussions, coaching others on what they should say. Let me just fix that for you. It will be easier if you do it this way. I'm just trying to help. Offering solutions before someone asks, taking over tasks in the name of efficiency.
I became exhausted just listening to the list. And then she looked at me and she said, quietly,
I know it pushes people away. I know it's exhausting for the people around me. Honestly, it's exhausting for me too. I don't know why I do it.
Every time she caught herself controlling something, her judge would march out and scold her, saying things like, stop it, relax, you're doing it again. But nothing really worked. Because the harder she tried to force herself not to control things, the more controlling she became. She said,
it feels like if I let go for even a second, everything will fall apart.
Control wasn't the problem. Control was the solution her nervous system had invented when safety felt unreliable. I asked her a question. What makes your nervous system believe that control is so necessary? What makes your martyr believe that the way to deal with all of this is to control, to rescue, to take over? She paused. She looked down. She took another breath. Tears welled up in her eyes, and a story began to emerge.
Growing up, my house had two versions of reality. There was the calm version. Dinner on the table, plates clinking, someone asking about my day. It could feel normal for a while, but there was always another version of the house hiding just beneath the surface. The one that could appear without warning. A sentence said the wrong way. A look that lasted half a second too long. A chair pushed back from the table a little harder than usual, and suddenly the air in the room would change. Voices would get louder, bodies would get tense. The emotional weather in the house could shift in seconds. Before long, I became very good at one thing: reading the weather, not the weather outside, the emotional weather inside the house. I watched faces constantly. I listened to footsteps in the hallway. I paid attention to the sound of cabinets closing in the kitchen. Some cabinet doors closed normally, others closed with force, and those two sounds meant very different things. I learned to hear the difference. I could tell by the way someone set their fork down whether dinner was going to stay peaceful or turn into something else entirely. So I started preparing, scanning, anticipating, trying to spot the storm before it arrived. I paid attention to everything: tone of voice, body language, silences that lasted just a little too long, because if the storm could be seen early enough, maybe something could be done about it. Maybe the right words could calm things down. Maybe the wrong words could be avoided. Maybe things wouldn't fall apart. And somewhere along the way, my nervous system came to a conclusion that made perfect sense at the time. It decided, if I stay alert, if I pay attention to everything, if I manage what's happening around me, maybe I can keep things from falling apart. And the strange thing is, for a kid growing up in that environment, that strategy actually worked. It helped me survive. The problem was, my nervous system kept running that same program long after the storms were over.
And somewhere along the way, her nervous system learned a rule that made perfect sense at the time. If she stays alert, if she anticipates problems, if she manages the environment, if she fixes things when they go wrong, if she tells other people how to fix things when they go wrong, maybe she can prevent the chaos. So she learned to plan. She learned to rescue. She learned to volunteer for everything under the sun. She learned to monitor. She learned to manage other people's reactions before those reactions even happened. As a child, it helped her survive, but decades later, her nervous system was still running the same program. Her shadows of shame, especially the martyr, developed some amazing muscles. So when plans changed, when someone's tone shifted, when life felt uncertain, her brain wasn't trying to control people. Her brain was trying to create safety through the martyr in ways that ended up creating a lack of safety for everyone else. And the moment she saw that, her whole posture changed. True, her judge showed up and wanted to punish her for being so controlling, but she put her hand out to stop the judge. She shook her head no, took a grounding breath, put her hands over her heart, and allowed herself to feel compassion for the wounds that were inside. And this is where the Finding Peace model becomes so powerful. Because when people come into therapy, they often think that the problem is their behavior. I'm too controlling. I'm too anxious. I'm too reactive. And so they try to change the behavior, but behavior is rarely the real starting point. Underneath behavior is usually an attachment wound. Maybe it's a wound of abandonment, where unpredictability made relationships feel unsafe. Maybe neglect, where emotional needs went unnoticed. Maybe betrayal, where trust was broken in ways the nervous system never fully recovered from. And when those wounds are activated, something else shows up. We call those the shadows of shame. These are those protective roles our nervous system created to survive emotional pain. For some people, the shadow that runs the show is the rebel. For others, it's the judge. But for this woman, it was the martyr. The martyr continually scans the room, looking for mistakes, looking for threats, looking for who might need help, looking for small things that could turn into big problems. And when the martyr senses that something is off, when the martyr senses that somebody needs support, even when they don't ask for it, it tries to restore safety the only way it knows how, by inviting her to take control. Controlling the schedule, volunteering for everything, controlling the details, controlling other people's reactions. Not because she is power hungry, but because somewhere deep in her nervous system lives a belief that says, if I don't stay in control, something bad will happen. And as she started to understand, that belief did not start in adulthood. It started in a younger nervous system that was just trying to survive. So healing doesn't begin by attacking the shadow. It begins by trying to understand it. And here's the framework that can help us understand it a little better. Our nervous system has some core needs, including connection, safety, attunement, and autonomy, among others. And when those needs are met, the system settles. But when they're not, the body will improvise because it's going to find a way to get those needs met one way or another. And those improvisations are what we call coping strategies. Coping strategies aren't character flaws. Coping strategies include addictions, avoidance, rage, control, people-pleasing, withdrawal. These are not moral failures. They are attempted solutions. Each one is trying to answer a question like, how do I feel safer sooner? How can I stay connected? What can I do about this immense pain that I am feeling? How do I regain control when I feel so powerless? The problem isn't that we have a strategy. The problem is that our brain has come to the conclusion that that is the only option for soothing pain and regaining safety. So, when we understand that, we might begin to ask a question. What is this behavior trying to meet for me? That question immediately reduces shame. It gives us a chance to reframe the behavior as information, not pathology. And here's what's important. When core needs are met, coping strategies naturally loosen. They don't have to be ripped away, and they don't have to be punished. They relax automatically because they are no longer necessary. Here is a simple practice that you might want to try. Think of one coping strategy, one numbing behavior, one protective behavior that you do that you really wish that you didn't do. Not the worst one. I mean, you could pick that one if you want. just one that's familiar for you. For one of mine, it used to be going to my local fast food restaurant and ordering a number 5 with bacon with a large Coke Zero. So think about that behavior that you hate that you do. And now I want you to ask yourself, what might this behavior be protecting me from? What wounds are connected to this behavior? What shadows are connected to this behavior, and what are they saying to me about it? And once I can start to identify the numbing behavior and the associated wound, I can ask another question. Is this behavior actually protecting me from loss, neglect, rejection, abandonment, betrayal, or abuse? From chaos, from feeling alone, from feeling powerless? Not really. What does this behavior want me to experience or have more of? More safety, more connection, a sense of peace, more rest, having a voice. Now, when we do this, this is not excusing the behavior. What we're doing is actually owning, yes, I do this behavior, and I do it in hopes that blank. And then as I sit with it, I realize that blank doesn't actually happen. In fact, it usually is the opposite. But I recognize that I've been doing that behavior in hopes of a different type of outcome. And when you start to look at that, you are listening to what it's been trying to do for you. When we're able to identify the attachment wound, that also helps us understand what some of the needs are that go with that attachment wound. And then we can ask ourselves another question. What would be a more effective way of getting that need met, where I don't feel shame afterwards, where my judge doesn't show up afterwards and beat the crap out of me for doing that, even though I told myself for the millionth time I wasn't going to do that anymore? What are some other more helpful, healthy behaviors that I could do? And when we start to figure that out and we follow through on those behaviors, the nervous system starts to update its story. It learns that safety, in this case with the woman, no longer has to come from control. It can come from connection, from regulation, from asking for help, from stating what her needs are, from learning to stay present even when life feels uncertain. And this is the heart of finding peace. Not eliminating our protective patterns, but understanding them well enough that we no longer have to live inside them. Because when the nervous system finally feels peaceful and safe, the shadows of shame don't have a job to do anymore. And we can finally breathe again. Safety doesn't grow through shame. It grows through understanding and compassion. And when we attack the strategies our nervous system created to survive, those strategies will dig in deeper. But when we understand them, the nervous system will begin to calm down, and we can begin to feel at peace. Compassion makes change possible. Compassion accelerates healing faster than shame ever could. Because when our nervous system feels understood, it doesn't have to fight so hard to survive. Until next time, listen beneath the behavior and try to meet the wound with compassion, understanding, and love. Because really, you're worth it. You are worthy of love and belonging, and you matter.
You've been listening to the Finding Peace podcast. Special thanks to Intrex for providing the theme music for this season and helping set the tone for reflection, grounding, and hope. If this episode supported you, please like, subscribe, and share the Finding Peace podcast. Your support helps these practical, trauma-informed tools reach more people who are seeking peace, clarity, and connection. To explore more resources, workshops, and upcoming events, visit findingpeaceconsulting.com. The Finding Peace podcast is hosted by best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker Troy L. Love. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of love and belonging.